She goes into the world of a novel and becomes a pretty princess. But her father, the emperor, actually wants her dead? Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Today we're going to be looking at an amazing manhwa called Who Made Me a Princess? This story centers more around the relationship between the protagonist and her father, but it also has romance, so don't you fret. It's super popular and has a lot of fans, so enjoy! And while you're at it, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It always helps. Here we go! The story begins with a girl on her knees in front of her father. It appears to be that the girl is wealthy given her attire, but she cries unconsolably as she demands to know what she has to do to make him love her, as he does her sister Janette. She asks if acting like her will make him call her lovingly too, but he says that will never happen until the day he dies, because even though she was with him for much longer than Janette, there was not a single day in which he considered her his daughter. Ouch. The scene changes entirely, and now we see a baby with blue eyes and blonde hair like the girl we saw before. The baby lies on her back on the floor and wonders why she just thought of that scene she'd read in a novel called Lovely Princess, who had a character named just as she is named now in Athanasia. The baby, who appears to be very self-aware, seems restless and keeps dropping her rattle to the ground, so the maid that takes her places her in her crib and leaves. Shouldn't she check if she's hungry or if she needs anything? Apparently the maid behaves like this because Athanasia is an outcast princess. We'll get to that in a bit. Already in her crib, Athanasia, who we'll call Athie from now on, recalls her past life. Apparently she had taken some pills to sleep, and when she woke up she was a baby in another world. In her previous life she had been an orphan, but in this life she's a princess. However, she's a princess that her father, the emperor, does not even recognize, so everybody hates her. It is because of this that when the maid comes back, she acts meanly towards Athie and tells her the budget is low, so they can't buy another toy, and that she's busy, so if she cries, she won't take care of her. I mean, even if she's hated, she's still a baby. This is pure neglect. Why are they like this? Well, it has to do with her father. Apparently, the palace she lives in, known as the Ruby Palace, is supposed to be where the emperor's concubines live. But the emperor himself had killed everyone living there except for Athie on the day she was born. Athie heard from the gossiping maids that her mother used to be a dancer that was invited to a royal banquet where she caught the emperor's attention. However, after getting pregnant, she was cast aside and died while giving birth. So Athie is all by herself now. Well, she technically has the maids, but they don't seem to care much about her since the emperor himself does not pay her any attention. Because of these stories, Athie is terrified of her father, the emperor, and fears that he will one day go crazy once more and kill everyone in the Ruby Palace again, including her. While having such scary thoughts, the door to the room is suddenly opened, producing a slamming sound against the wall. Well, that's no way to enter a baby's room. Several maids come in, complaining about having to take care of Athie and having to stay in that bloodied palace. Still, she is a princess after all, so she is well fed and cared for somehow. Athie's plan is to get the little luxuries in the room together, the golden ornaments and such, and run away with them to live a good life far, far away from her crazy father. It is because of this that Athie is attracted to shiny and golden things, so she loves playing with the golden orb that Lily, the only maid that actually takes good care of her, holds out for her. Lily is the only one who really looks after her because she actually volunteered to go and take care of her even after the massacre at the Ruby Palace. This is because Lily had seen Athie's mother dance when she was younger and admired her free spirit. At least someone is on Athie's side. As time goes by, Athie learns how to crawl around and get bigger, every day getting closer to her goal to escape. Lily likes to teach Athie new things all the time, so she teaches her about sorcerers and the magic tower that has the strongest sorcerer there is, who could even destroy the empire if he wanted to. In the book they're reading, there is a picture of a young blonde man with blue eyes, and Lily tells Athie that that's her father, the emperor. Athie starts hitting the image in the book because she hates him, although Lily thinks it's because she recognizes him and thinks that Athie is very bright. Everything changes, though, when Lily reveals the Emperor's name to her. He is called Claude de Alger Obelia. Athy is very puzzled because that is exactly the same name as the Emperor in that novel called Lovely Princess she read in her past life. So, her name is the same, her father's name is the same. We can all see the reason why, right? Well, it takes a bit longer for Athy to realize the truth. She recalls the story of the novel. Janette was a princess whose existence the Emperor did not know about until she turned 14, and who was brought into high society. Even though he was a very cold person, the lovely Janette, who was loved by everyone, had been able to melt his frozen heart, and so he loved her dearly. On the other hand, Athanasia, the other princess, had been cast aside by the Emperor the moment she was born, didn't even meet him till she was 9, and even then it was only an accident. He never even looked for her. She tried really hard to turn into someone her father would recognize. However, her attempts were all futile, and it was all made worse when Janette showed up. It was so painful to see how she easily managed to get what she had tried to acquire her whole life: her father's love. In the end, the Emperor Claude actually kills his daughter Athanasia when she is framed for poisoning Janette. He did not even wait until she was charged as guilty for the crime. And later on, when it is revealed that she was innocent, he doesn't even have an ounce of regret for what he did. Now, baby Athy is absolutely enraged at this story, not only because she thinks that Athanasia's side of it is absolutely unfair, but even more so because it appears to be that she is reincarnated into the Forgotten Princess herself. As I told you, it did take her some time, but now she is fully conscious that her fate is that of the Athanasia in the novel. And so at that point in her life, being just a baby, all she can do about it is cry. Even Lily, the only one who really loved her, was killed by Claude in the novel because she defended Athanasia, claiming she was innocent of the poisoning. Athy is resolved. She will escape this palace. And she uses every possible tool she can think of to do this. Now being 5 years old, Athy has learnt how to manipulate the maids that didn't like her much in the past. How? Well, with her cuteness. No maid can refuse her with such a cute face and attitude, and so she can even get them to give her chocolates, even though Lily has clearly prohibited them from doing so because she's having too many. Talking about Lily, she has now become the head nanny of the Ruby Palace. It turns out that throughout the years, the maids have been taking the jewels and gold from the palace, seeing as how the Emperor didn't really pay attention to it, and Athy was only a baby who couldn't do anything. Although she couldn't do anything, she did notice, and was rather upset because she was actually counting on the jewels and gold to steal them herself for her great escape plan. They were eating away all of her emergency fund. Anyway, Lily was brave and stood up to the head nanny who was involved and put a stop to it. The maids who had taken things returned what hadn't been sold and left. The head nanny was fired, and Lily was given the position. 5-year-old Athy has played her cards right. She has used her cuteness over the years, and now all of the Ruby Palace is on her side. Little by little, she's getting funds for her big escape by collecting precious items without Lily noticing. All is going according to plan. However, one day, after receiving her secret chocolates from the charmed maids, she goes to wash her stained hands at the fountain in the gardens. There, she sees her reflection for the first time and confirms that she has blue jeweled eyes, which are only possessed by those of direct line to the royal family. Apparently, Janette has them too. After washing up, she goes to pick some pretty flowers when she suddenly notices she's totally lost. Seeing a tall castle, she runs there, thinking it's the entrance of the Ruby Palace. But once in front of it, she realizes it is not. But it isn't a structure she recognizes either. Hesitantly, she walks in and explores. Nobody seems to be there, but the castle is very clean. Being as innocent as she is, even though this is her second life, she decides that this place will be her new treasure hiding spot, and that she will use it to store her stolen jewels and gold ornaments for her great escape, since she can't hide any more of them at the Ruby Palace. Little does she know, This idea is the one that will end up ruining her plan altogether. How? Well, some days later, Athie finds out that the Ruby Palace will be cleaned soon, so she needs to move her pretty gold objects to her new hiding spot before the maids find them. Because of this, she's been putting them in little pouches and tying them to her legs under her dress to carry them without raising any suspicion. Even though they're heavy and hurt a bit, she stealthily goes to the new palace when she's supposed to be napping to stash away her escape fund. It's really cute, actually, because as she runs, it sounds like a bag of coins moving up and down. She then leaves the bags hidden under some bushes in the garden and quickly runs back to the Ruby Palace, repeating the process several times in order to move all of the treasure. Even though Athie wants to stay in the Ruby Palace and live there with Lily forever, she knows that it's only a matter of time until there's an issue with Claude, her neglectful father, so she can't stay there forever. Poor sweet girl. She just wants to be happy. But it seems like this won't be possible. Not in the way she was planning, at least. One of the times she heads to the new secret palace, instead of going to the usual bushes, she decides to find a new hiding spot for her treasures. She is mesmerized by the several gold statues she encounters in a new part of the empty palace. There are so many that she thinks she can at least take one for her stash. But first, to confirm they are made of actual gold, she tries to bite one. Girl, what are you doing? Wait, what's that behind you? Athie was so distracted by the golden statues that she didn't notice the steps that headed her way earlier. Now, someone stands behind her. Towering over her, a man with a look of extreme disgust asks, "What is this filthy bug doing in my palace?" Athie stops right in her tracks and flinches at the sound of the voice. She hastily turns around and is paralyzed as in front of her stands her greatest enemy. The person she is most afraid of in this world, her father, Emperor Claude de Alger Obelia. In her panic, Athie drops her treasure bag and all the jewels and jewelry she took from the Ruby Palace fall to her feet and roll over the white marble floors. Athie trembles as the man who is supposed to be her father says he recognizes her face, recalling her mother and calling her a wench. Her mind goes at 200 miles per hour as she wonders how this might be happening. These aren't even the Emperor's gardens. Claude extends his hand, placing his finger under the petrified Athie's chin, and remembering her name, he calls it out. Athanasia. Athie's eyes are horrified, her heart beating loudly as the Emperor kneels in front of her with an unreadable expression and tells her that she has grown a lot. She can't even take a step back. Why is the Emperor actually speaking with her when in the novel he always ignored Athanasia? And right in the middle of this very tense situation, the eyes of all those who are present move downwards at the sight of the spilled jewels and treasures. Claude glances at them and then stares straight back at Athie, still expressionless. Athie doesn't know what to do. She can only look at him and sweat in fear. Claude starts moving forward, extending his arms toward Athie. But much to her and to our surprise, he only lifts her. Athie is very confused, but then the Emperor states that she's heavy, and all of her confusion turns into anger. I mean, poor Athie. This man doesn't care about her and never cared for Athanasia in the novel. She's been avoiding him all her life, and now not only is he speaking to her when he's supposed to leave her alone, but he calls her heavy? Come on. Still, all of Athie's fury leaves her body when she hears the Emperor ask what she's doing in his palace. His palace? What did he mean, his palace? This place is even more humble than the Ruby Palace in which the neglected princess lives. But now that she thinks about it, in the novel, Athanasia had accidentally stumbled upon the Emperor at a party when she was 9 because his palace was right next to hers. Well, Athie, I don't know what to tell you. You've had 5 years to think about all this. Also, the pretty empty castle did seem pretty suspicious. I mean, I didn't say anything because it's your story, you know, but how come you found a super huge, elegant, and clean palace and you thought, oh hey, this seems empty. No one must live here. I'ma keep it, okay? Like, girl, yes, you were supposed to be 5, but you were a grown woman before you transmigrated into this novel. Anyway, now that we have confirmed that the secret treasure hiding spot was indeed the Emperor's gardens, Claude's attention turns to the bite marks Athy left in the statue behind her. She sweats profusely, panicking while asking herself if he's going to kill her because she trespassed, or because she left bite marks on his golden statue. However, nothing much happens. Claude just hands her over to his startled knight called Felix, saying that she must have wandered off while playing and walks away. But to their and to our surprise, instead of just leaving her behind, he tells Felix to carry her since he should have some tea with his guest. Now inside the castle, Athy seats before an assortment of pastries and delicious-looking cakes with some refreshments. She still doesn't touch them and trembles and sweats, averting her eyes, fearful of the man who is sitting in front of her and staring intensely. After she doesn't speak or basically moves for a while, Claude relaxes his posture and exclaims that he's bored. Athy interprets this as an, "I'll kill you because you're not entertaining," so she finally says a few words with an innocent and cute smile. The Emperor then presses her as to why she hadn't spoken before, but Felix saves her, saying that girls her age are usually very shy. To this, Athy just keeps on grinning while crying internally and begging in her mind for him to let her go. Far from that, Claude accommodates his posture so that he's facing her entirely once more. It feels as if a golden dragon ready to breathe fire were standing in front of a trembling rabbit. Claude suddenly orders for Felix to leave, and though he is surprised and seems a bit reluctant, he must oblige while Athy screams in her head for him not to leave her alone with the dragon. Now all by themselves, he starts talking. He first murmurs her pet name, Athy, which she had mentioned before, stating that it must be a nickname for her full name. Now here is where things go south. Athy's name, Athanasia, was given to her by her mother before she died. It means king. The thing is that only the emperors of Obelia can be granted names with such important meanings like eternity or immortality. And since the ones that will become emperors are the firstborns, only they can receive such names. Claude is actually the second-born son who took the emperor position from his older brother, so he does not have this kind of name and can never receive it. Athy fears that he might feel frustrated by her name and might even kill her because of it, since he even comments that if her mother had survived the labor, she would have been ripped apart limb by limb for her impertinence. Nice things to say to a 5-year-old, Claude. Good job. Athy smiles innocently, trying to look as harmless and ignorant of the weight of the name as possible, although inside she is a nerve wreck. Claude changes the subject and tells Athy to eat, and feeling absolutely intimidated by his piercing stare, and his saying that he'll punish the cook if she doesn't eat, she complies, although shaking the whole time. Athy smiles and says it's yummy out of her desire to live longer, even though she's terrified of him and wants to leave. Her thoughts are interrupted when Claude asks about who taught her manners. She says it was Lily, who Claude knows as Lillian York, and who apparently 5 years prior had kneeled in front of him asking to be allowed to care for Athy. Although he allowed it, Claude does not seem satisfied with her, since Athy's mother and Lily are the only ones who survived after getting in his way. Athy can only continue eating under the pressure of the Emperor's remarks. But then, a question. As you sit there, are you aware of who I am? Athy's fork drops from her hand, and she stares in horror at her father. Their eyes are looking directly into one another's, and Athy knows she must not avert her gaze right now, as if she were standing in front of a predator ready to pounce. This is a test to decide whether to let her live longer or to have her killed. The only thing that can be heard in the room is Claude tapping his finger when Athy hesitantly answers, "Father?" She thinks she'll be killed for her answer, but remembering Janette used to be cute and lovely and Claude loved her, she takes it one step further and calls him Papa. Claude is shocked, and Athy thinks it's the end for her, so she pulls out all the weapons and calls him Papa once more with an intoxicatingly sweet face. Soon after, she was returned by Felix to the worried maids who had been looking for Athy all day, along with the message that the Emperor would be visiting her soon. The maids don't know if they should be happy or scared, but Lily is only worried about her, who immediately pukes after being nervous all day. That night, she reviews her plans, and given that the escaping and never meeting Claude plan is no longer an option, she decides to carry on with her other two plans: saving up to escape before she turns 18, and to continue playing cute to steal the Emperor's heart. She literally can't stop cringing as she thinks about the last part. She's already so ashamed after calling him Papa, but she must survive no matter what. It's already time for the visit, and Athy trembles before her father. However, she is surprised when he states that he'll be looking after her now, after so many years of neglect. Raising her head, Athy is met by a smile that terrifies her. She just wants to be ignored. This isn't how the novel went. Still, she starts meeting up with him regularly and discovers that when acting scared, he'll become formal and scary himself. But when acting cute and silly, even slightly impertinently, he will smile lightly. Because of this, when they are on a boat ride in the lake and he asks her what she's thinking about, she acts all cute and says his hair is sparkly and pretty and she likes sparkly things. To this, he actually smiles and reminds her of how she had a jewel pouch when they first met, telling her to go look for it at his palace since he's kept it safe, to which she smiles but internally screams. Still being a child, Athy soon gets distracted by some pretty light blue flowers growing on the lake. Claude watches her as she reaches out to try to grab one. She reaches out, and out, and out until Athy falls into the water. She becomes desperate as she can't swim, and cries out for help until she notices the Emperor is looking right at her with an indifferent expression, and with no intention whatsoever of saving her. Athy looks at him helplessly as she's tugged to the bottom of the lake by the surrounding vines, thinking about how her father won't even lift a finger and would let her die like that, thinking that's too much, even for him. However, it seems like he's had a change of mind, since the next thing she knows is that she's coughing violently on the side of the lake, with Lily by her side. Claude casually tells Felix to teach her how to swim, since it'd be embarrassing for the daughter of the Emperor not to know, and then turns around to leave while Athy cries. That afternoon, Athy has a fever and shivers as she remembers how Claude looked at her from the boat. She wants chocolate to feel better, and so goes to the kitchen to get some. However, before she can have any, Lily fetches her because after almost letting her drown, for reasons Athy cannot possibly understand, and me neither kinda, Claude has assigned a new army of maids to her. Not only that, but Felix is now her personal guard as well, which he seems quite happy about. At least he actually seems to care about her, unlike you-know-who. Athy is quite grumpy, however, because the new maids came to replace the old ones, which she'd worked so hard to charm during the years, laying all her hard work to waste. Felix then suggests that she go see the Emperor with a sparkling smile, which creates a big contrast with Lily and Athy's shocked expression at his suggestion. Apparently, Claude wants to spend more time with Athy, and so she abides. On the way to his palace, Athy wonders why there are no knights or ladies-in-waiting there. After all, the palace is completely empty. Felix says it's because Claude prefers to do everything himself and not have people waiting on him. And regarding the knights, apparently he doesn't need any, whatever that may imply. Once they arrive, it appears to be that Claude is asleep in his room. So Athy says she wants to return, but Felix tells her to go in anyway, opening the door and placing her on the ground, promptly closing the door right after. Athy looks like a deer in headlights at first, but is soon distracted by the sights in the room. There's gold everywhere. She is then scared when she finds Claude sleeping on one of the couches instead of the bed. He looks so peaceful, so kind and princely. Should I give him a little wake-up punch? Is what Athy thinks as she clenches her fist. After all, this opportunity won't come by often. That's it for today, guys. What do you think? Will there be a punch? For some reason, the Emperor has been somewhat nice to Athy since he's met her. Or at least, he hasn't killed her yet. Now Athy has gone to meet him as he requested. However, he's fast asleep. Athy is really fired up as she stares at the sleeping Emperor, thinking she'll never have a chance to punch him again, and even raises her arms. But in doing so, a piece of chocolate falls from her sleeve and hits Claude in the forehead, causing him to wake up. He looks at Athy in that strange position, and in order to survive, she quickly lowers her arms and pats his chest while she sweetly sings a lullaby, as if that had been her intention all along. Claude looks at her oddly, and after confirming Felix was the one who let her in, gets up, looking as fine as a well-chiseled statue. They have dinner together, and since Athy has trouble eating her meat, it is decided that she'll be taking etiquette lessons from now on. Athy must remember that she's trying to accomplish Plan C and must somehow charm this cold man. So she just smiles and says she'll do her best, even though he basically said she has no class. As Athy sleeps in her palace after the meal, we see Claude speaking with Felix. Felix comments on how she must have gotten her attitude from Diana, her mother, and Claude says she would have forgotten that wench's face if Athy hadn't showed up for another year. Felix tries to change the subject, asking if he thinks Athy is lovely, and Claude is very cold as he says that he lost those emotions a long time ago. A month goes by, and since then Claude has requested that Athy goes to see him every morning to have their daily tea. He seems cold and distant, but that won't stop Athy from trying to charm him away. She behaves cutely as she always does, and when that doesn't work, she becomes bold, thinking that might get a reaction out of the Emperor, and stubbornly requests to drink the tea he is having. Although Felix thinks that it won't be a good idea since it might be too strong for her, Claude allows it, and as soon as she takes a sip, her eyes turn super sparkly as she really enjoys it. She says it feels like flowers are blooming inside her mouth, which gets a very strange reaction from both Felix and Claude. They stare at her in silence while Athy is very confused, but Felix then explains that the tea is called lipid tea, and that Diana, her mother, used to enjoy it as well. He says that her reaction to tasting it was the same back then, even using the same expression as she did. Athy wants to know a bit more, so she hesitantly asks, and Felix starts explaining that the reason the Emperor drinks the tea is because of Diana. But he is cut short when Claude says he does not have such memories, and looks at him menacingly while saying he is being surprisingly chatty today. He then tells Athy to keep on drinking milk and not tea, and it ends at that. Later that day, Athy is drawing the people in her family, and she asks Lily and Felix what her mom looked like. They both share a very concerned look, but then Lily starts to describe her. Athy is happy as she draws her, thinking about how beautiful she must have been liked by Claude, and says that she liked to see her too. Lily looks at her, and it looks like she's about to cry, and it is then that Athy realizes that she said that she wants to see her mom out loud. After that day, Lily and Felix have been concerned about her all the time, watching over her with worried eyes. She's tired about it, and about pretending she's clueless about the situation with her mom. That is, until one day she overhears them speaking, saying that there is no recording stone that would be able to play out some recorded images of Diana, kind of like a video, but that the Emperor might be able to give some of his memories to Athy herself about Diana, and so she'd finally be able to see her. Athy is very surprised about this. I mean, Claude has magic? She'd never read that in the novel. But still, she comes forward and says that they must not ask him to do that. She says that she doesn't want them to talk to Claude about her mom because he hates it when they talk about her, which earns her a very shocked expression from both Lily and Felix. She then adds that if she says she wants to see her mom, he might hate her too. Lily is devastated, thinking that Athy has such thoughts in her mind, and Felix even kneels in front of her, swearing upon his name that the Emperor does not hate either her or Diana. Well, he has a pretty funny way of showing that, Felix. Still, he insists on this, but Athy gets angry, saying her dad will hate her and that she doesn't want to see her mom anymore, and then pushes Felix and runs away. The next morning, everyone has eyes under their eyes as they have not slept at all, and Athy decides to cut Felix some slack, asking him to carry her to the meeting with her father, as if to say, "It's okay, we're good." This time, though, they are heading to the audience chamber and not to the garden, and on their way they meet a white-haired man named Roger Alpheus. Apparently, he's the one who's been raising Janette as his hidden card, and who later presents her in the novel, and he's also the father of the male lead of the novel, Ezekiel Alpheus. Roger greets her politely, but he sizes her up with his eyes, clearly comparing her to his ace up his sleeve, Janette. Athy is not one to stay put, though, and pretends to be innocent as she calls him Mr. White, even calling him a white dog. Roger is perplexed as she offers him some already chewed candy, and he's about to take it because he can't really refuse a gift from a princess, when suddenly she takes it away, saying dogs can't have treats. Felix is having a very hard time containing his laughter as they say goodbye and head into the audience chamber to greet the Emperor, leaving the very shocked man behind. A Upon entering, Athy tells Claude that she saw Whitey, who looked like a white doggy, and even he lets out a small laugh, saying the name is fitting. He then grabs Athy and takes her behind the throne into a big hole in the wall that seems to act like a bed lined with soft pillows and mattresses. He lies down, saying he's tired from all the noisy requests he's already received in the morning, and asks Athy to sing him the lullaby she sang when she woke him up that time. Athy is firstly shocked that he would just lie down like that to sleep in the audience chamber, and secondly, feeling rather defiant, she tells him that she forgot the song. He then wonders out loud what he can do to make her remember, recalling when some people tried to assassinate him in that very same room, and that after they were caught and said they didn't know anything else about the attack, he forcibly made them to remember. Athy stares at him with a smile on her face and can see her life flashing before her eyes. So she magically remembers the song and starts singing it for him as tears roll down her smiling face. Once he is asleep, Felix tells Athy from the other side of the curtain that her song must have been very effective, since he has a hard time sleeping, for which she is very embarrassed because she hoped he hadn't heard her. Felix then apologizes about what had happened the previous day, saying he was out of line and should have respected her. But Athy feels very guilty since she was the one who said she wanted to see Diana. She apologizes for pushing him, and he forgives her, and then tells her the story about his own mother. Apparently, she was the Emperor's nanny, and they had never spent much time together because she was always looking after the Emperor and not him, which caused him to resent her. She died when he was still young, but he didn't miss her because he almost had no memories with her, until one day he saw a handkerchief in which she had carefully embroidered his name. He then started crying, realizing that this person he had resented so much was actually someone he'd truly missed, and that though they didn't have memories together, she was his still one and only mother. Athy thinks about all this. The concept of a mother is foreign to her, as she was an orphan in her previous world, but for her as Athanasia who was neglected? She tells Felix that she was lying when she was saying she didn't want to see her mom anymore, but that she wasn't lying when she said that she didn't have to see her, because she has her father now. Felix then asks her if she has any wish, and in her mind she thinks that she wishes Claude won't kill her when she turns 18. But what she says is that she hopes Claude will like her more and more and more by the time she's 18, as much as she likes him. Athy is sleepy then, and as she falls asleep, Felix tells her that it will surely come true. As she sleeps, she dreams of Diana for the first time in her life, and she can hear her singing a song. We can see, however, that the reason why she dreams this is that Claude is sharing his memories of her with him. She smiles as she sees her beautiful mother. Just like that, 2 years suddenly go by, and in that time, Athy's relationship with Claude has gotten much better. She now goes to visit him whenever she wants, especially when she's short on sweets in her palace, because he gives her whatever sweets she desires. Yeah, she's gone from fearing him to using him for candy. On one particular morning, Claude asks her if she met someone on her way there, and when she says no, he has an annoyed expression as he says good, and that she should continue ignoring them in the future. However, on her way out, she sees what he meant as she encounters Roger, who she still treats as a dog, telling him to give her his paw and patting him on the head. Roger suddenly suggests that Athy should have a friend around her age, offering his son who is 3 years older than her, and who he says is good-looking since he takes after him. Athy can see that his intention is to get Athy under his control as a backup plan, because he can see Claude likes her and his original plan with Janette might fail terribly. Because of this, she says no, saying that if he looks like Mr. White, she's not interested, dealing a devastating blow to his pride. Still, he aims again, telling her he also has a niece around her age. Athy knows who this is, Janette herself. She definitely does not want to have anything to do with her, since she's basically the reason she dies in the novel, and tells Mr. White that she does not want a friend who's not as smart as her. Mr. White is shocked by her words, countering that his niece is very bright, but he is then put to shame when Athy starts telling him about all the things she knows, discussing political ideas, asking him how many languages his niece knows. Surely she must know 3 languages she already speaks, right? She even speaks in another language and says, "May God punish those who deceive with 1,000 punishments," which is clearly a jab at him who is hiding Janette to later use her for his own gain. He is as white as a sheet as he says his niece is not at her level and is shocked by the princess's intelligence and proceeds to leave. Serves you right, Mr. White. A few days later, Athy finds what appears to be a magical creature in the woods. It looks so fluffy, so she follows it, naming it Raven. And just when she's about to catch it, it appears to be that she's grabbed someone's hair. But who is this good-looking man who suddenly appeared in her garden, where not many people are allowed? The man says he caught the thing she was following, and Athy wonders if it's actually his. Just then, Felix comes looking for her. But with a snap from his fingers, he seems to cast a spell that makes Felix unable to see her. And then with another snap, he becomes distracted and leaves. Athy is surprised and asks him if he's some kind of magician and if he can do some other stuff. And he seems pretty uninterested as he makes tons of bubbles appear out of thin air. Athy is mesmerized by them and starts popping them. But as she does so, she realizes she's getting out of breath. She is, however, pulled away from her trance by Raven, who growls, for which the magician seems angry. What is his intention? What does he plan on doing to Athy? Athy's relationship with her father is much better, and she's grown quite a bit since the story began. Now she's 7, and she has just found a suspicious man who appears to be a magician right in her garden. Athy was deceived by the magician, but she is now out of the trance thanks to the animal she had followed. He seems to have been asleep for hundreds of years, since he's unaware of any current event. Suddenly, he notices something strange in Athy. He stares right into her eyes, smiling like a madman, while saying he's found something interesting. The magician explains the animal she was chasing is hers, and that it's a sacred beast that manifested from her magical power because she has too much mana. Magical power? Does this mean Athy can do magic too? Her thoughts are interrupted by him taking the animal, which she named Raven, away, and saying he will consume it. Athy is distressed about this, and so he takes the opportunity to make a deal. He will spare her and the animal, but only until it's fully grown, and then she will have to give something to him which he doesn't really specify, but which he says won't harm her. Athy, I don't know about you, but I would not go about striking deals with such suspicious strangers. He seems dangerous, though, so Athy takes the deal. The magician tells her his name is Lucas, and then disappears, leaving Athy all alone with the creature. After being allowed to keep it, Athy goes to visit the Emperor, who seems very tired. She suggests going for a walk, and accidentally grabs his robe on the way out of reflex, thinking it was Felix. This is misunderstood as her wanting to be carried by her father, who surprisingly agrees, but basically just grabs her by the back of her dress and carries her as if she were a bag, thinking that's somehow comfortable. Luckily, Felix intercedes and takes her to explain to him how to do it properly. But Athy just holds on tight to him, saying she only wants him to carry her. Felix seems honored by this as he blushes and smiles, but it seems like Claude has become jealous and states that he will be the one taking her. To think we were so scared of this man. Under his pissed stare, Athy goes into his arms and is properly carried while being told that she must not let Felix carry her like that so much, since it'll create a bad habit. All the while, Felix is made to stay away, at least 20 feet from them. He's so jealous! When they sit for tea, Claude tells Felix he's useless if all he ever does is carry her around, punching him right where it hurts. Just then, Athy gets distracted. Her heart starts racing, and then, suddenly, she is covered in blood coming out of her mouth. She is confused as she stares at the blood and then at the Emperor. For the first time in this entire story, the Emperor has an expression of shock and worry. Everything fades to black as Athy collapses. What on earth just happened? The next thing Athy knows is that she is in very extreme pain as she lays on a bed. She clutches at her chest, tossing and turning as tears fall one after the other while crying loudly. Felix and Claude are next to her, and so is a powerful magician who bows before the Emperor, saying that he doesn't know what to do with her condition. Her mana is overflowing, and it is causing her pain. Claude does not take this well and sends the magician to the dungeon, asking for another to be brought in, telling him he'll tear his body apart if he is as incompetent as the last one. Athy calls for him amidst her pain, and we finally see his face, cold as stone. He reaches for her, telling her to sleep, and uses his magic to make her sleep. In her dream, she sees her mother once more. However, this time, she's crying as she holds her stomach. We then see Claude going to her, telling her he's lost, that he'll even beg if she wants him to. He asks her to choose him and stay, to choose him instead of the child that is eating away at her life. Oh darn. So this is why he hated Athanasia so much in the story. Right after seeing that, Athy wakes up, and in front of her is Lucas. The pain is completely gone, and it seems that Lucas was the one who saved her from a certain death because of her own mana. We don't know what he might want in return, or why he did it though. Just then, Felix and Claude walk into the room, and Athy can't help but run towards her dad. But on the way, she slips and is about to hit the ground when a surprised Claude catches her. Athy is surprised. Did he just catch her? The man who looked at her while she almost drowned? Not only that, but he holds her close and lifts her, asking her if she's feeling okay. Aw, so much progress! Lucas then puts on a whole act in which he exhausted himself healing her and is oh so weak, and says that the princess is not entirely healed since it might happen again, but that if it does, he will do everything in his power to help her once more. He is sent to rest, and as he walks past her, Athy notices he suddenly looks around her age. He smirks at her as he goes by. This guy? He basically just got a legal reason to stay next to her forever as her healer. By the way, it seems like Athy was asleep for 48 days. Again, what on earth happened? We finally get an explanation. It seems that Athy either has too much mana, or it really wants to return to her body. Either way, playing around with Raven so closely caused a trigger effect that ended up in this whole ordeal, but Lucas was able to solve it, and she can even keep Raven around without any issue. Apparently, he is this powerful. Since he saved her, everybody in the palace sees him as her skilled savior and treat him great, but Athy thinks he's just an idiot. Still, he did spend a lot of energy in healing her, for whatever reason we are unaware of, so he has to use a more childlike form to recover, which apparently also makes him act like a child. Now, I know he's totally sus, but he looks so cute! Look at those big red eyes! Athy is still wary of him and his weird way of saying things, so when her father arrives, she tries to tell on him, but Lucas puts on a whole cute act, which is very effective. Yes, he's good. Claude wants to get rid of Raven since he kind of caused this, but Athy convinces him to just let her spend less time with her cuteness, which Lucas finds hilarious. Athy goes to sleep after that, and while she sleeps, we finally get a glimpse into Claude's mind. It seems like indeed, Athy was right to be wary. Claude has wanted to kill her since the day he saw her. He had tried so hard to forget her mother, but there was this reminder which was the spitting image of her. And not only that, but it was also the reason she died. Still, every day he said a little bit more. A little bit more of Athy's big round eyes, her smile, her golden hair. And like that, years went by. He still thought he couldn't care if she suddenly died or disappeared, but when she started coughing blood, he nearly went insane looking for ways and threatening people to save her. He hates her, but he loves her. He won't admit that to himself yet, but we know. His behavior changed entirely since the incident. He now carries Athy around everywhere because she's weak from only lying in bed for 48 days, and he even walks with her holding her hand. Not even that, but he also visited the Ruby Palace, and upon seeing the state it was in, he ordered Athy to move to the Emerald Palace, which is the palace he gifted Janette in the novel, and the customary palace for the princesses to reside in. Yeah, he really does care. He can't deny it anymore. The matter of Athy having friends around her age is brought up again, and since she still doesn't want to be friends with Mr. White's children, and neither does Claude to be honest, it is decided that Lucas will be her new friend, since people think he's around her age after all. She still protests, but under Lucas's insinuation that he might eat Raven, she allows him to stay. Although she tells him she would rather have played with Mr. White's son if she'd known he'd be the alternative. This seems to anger Lucas, who says that if she wants that so badly, then go do that. And with a snap of his fingers, Athy suddenly falls in the middle of a field. And not on the soft grass, but on someone with golden eyes and white hair. Ezekiel! He is dazed, thinking she's an angel because, well, she is that pretty, thank you very much. And she hides quickly as Mr. White himself comes to talk to him. As soon as he is gone, Ezekiel tries talking to Athy. And since she can't really say she's a princess, she tells him she indeed is an angel, which is embarrassing for her because, of course, he doesn't believe that now that he's come to his senses. But he still plays along with her. They talk for a bit more, and Ezekiel is much cuter than how he had been described in the novel, asking her how to comfort a crying child since Janette seems to be upset because he's leaving their house to study in another country. And he chuckles at Athy's Athy-like answers. Embarrassed, Athy curses at Lucas out loud, and as soon as she says his name, she goes back to the house. Lucas said she must have had fun since it took her so long for her to call him, but she punches him right in the face, and with utter rage, makes him promise he will never do it again. Still, Lucas is very impressed that she punched him, knowing he was super powerful and all. The next day, Athy meets Mr. White again, and he once more tries to convince Athy to meet her son before he leaves to study abroad, but she is quick to dismiss the idea. Still, this reminds her of how she suddenly disappeared last time without saying goodbye, so she asks Lucas to send her back to see him, but to change the color of her eye so that he won't know who she is. Ezekiel is surprised by her sudden appearance, but when she tells him she came to say goodbye, he gets really flustered because it means she came to see him. How cute! They talk for a bit, and Athy realizes he is even more knowledgeable than her, who is supposed to be an adult. She is stunned. Just then, Janette knocks on his door, making up 15 different excuses for him to spend time with her, although he clearly does not want to go, but would rather stay talking to Athy. Athy whispers through the door that he can go, and when he leaves, Lucas shows up all of a sudden, asking if Janette is a chimera and startling Athy. He says he wanted to see who she wanted to be friends with, and with a snap of his fingers, and of course without Athy wanting to, they follow Ezekiel and Janette, hidden with his magic. They appear in a greenhouse where we finally see Janette in full and, well, she's pretty. I don't want to admit it, but she is, and Athy thinks so too. They witness Janette crying to make Ezekiel stay. It seems like she's always done this to get what she wants, but it won't work this time. He really must go. Lucas takes them back to the palace and wonders why Janette has her eyes, asking if she's her sister, and telling her that she's strange because she does not seem to be a pure royal, descendant of an emperor, but rather has something else mixed in. That's why he calls her a chimera. Athy recalls Janette's story from the book. Her mother Penelope was engaged to Claude, and he loved her, but she wanted more, because Claude was second in line for the throne, so she seduced his older brother in secret. Claude found out about this and cut ties with his neglectful family completely. They never really cared about him anyways. When his brother became emperor and killed Claude's mother, Claude killed him in return, and Penelope escaped with his brother's child in her womb, who was actually an experiment since she was conceived using black magic. Claude's brother was jealous of how Claude's power was much stronger than his, and how he was more intelligent, so he used magic to create a child stronger than him. But when she was born, she was normal except for her royal jeweled eyes. Everyone in the novel assumed Janette was Claude's daughter since Penelope and him were engaged and no one knew of the affair. But Claude knew, and he still took Janette in. Athy thought it was because he still loved Penelope, but what she saw about her mother in her dreams, nothing makes sense. Time goes by and Athy grows up. She is now 9 years old and about to become 10. And she is so beautiful and elegant and graceful, and gosh, isn't Athy the prettiest female lead you have ever seen? She seems to have gotten closer to Claude over the years too, as they still have their daily tea together while Claude just stares at her and looks uninterested as usual. However, he suddenly mentions her birthday coming up, and Athy recalls how for the last 7 birthdays, he has been showering her with gifts, acting as if they were nothing and just giving her trash he didn't need anymore. He was giving her jewels though. Claude, do you have any trash for me? Anyway, his Zundarism is still strong as he asks if she wants anything for her birthday. Honestly, She's just so happy with her current situation. She has already gotten to the age where Athanasia met Claude in the novel and he ignored her. But in her case, none of that happened. So she says she doesn't want anything, but Claude seems bothered by this. While on a walk with Felix, the knight mentions the birthday present issue, and then reminds her that her debutante ball is coming up, wondering who she'll share her first dance with. She nonchalantly replies that she might dance with him, but Felix can feel his immediate demise were this to happen, and tries to lead her into choosing her father as her partner because otherwise, his head will roll. Still, as usual, Felix has no luck because even after talking with Lucas about it and him telling her that she's dumb for not noticing her dad wants to escort her and that he loves her much more than she thinks, she still tells Claude she'll go with Felix. Claude, as always, acts uninterested, but Felix is about to faint under the glaring eyes that the Emperor himself cannot hide. This is hilarious. Athy, who, although cute as a button, is sometimes too oblivious. Finally notices her dad wants to dance with her, and instead of being all, "Yes, I want to dance with you too," she sticks to her usual mindset. Maybe I can get something out of this. For a female lead, Athy is pretty villainous sometimes. So she thinks she'll dance with Claude, but apparently won't tell her until later on. But she does need the practice, being that her father is so much taller than her. She decides to ask Lucas to dance with her as practice because he can use his magic to turn into his adult self, which is about the same height as Claude. But in his usual fashion, Lucas is too busy laying around and doing nothing to help her. What a nice job to have. Athy tries with her ultimate weapon, cuteness and flattery, and calling him the most powerful and prettiest in all the realms as she takes a shot at him. Almost no one can resist the charm of the female lead. It's a canon event in these stories. Almost. Our boy Lucas appears to be partially immune, so instead of actually getting up to help her, he makes a paper doll the size of Claude and throws it at her for her to practice. That's nightmare material right there. Athy is a bit disturbed too, asking if he can at least add a face to it or something. She inevitably falls since the doll can't hold her up, and of course he laughs. She then asks if he can use his magic to turn the doll into a handsome boy that can hold her, but he says he doesn't want to since it makes him feel bad for some reason. Aw, is the 100-year-old magician jealous of a paper doll but can't even recognize it himself? Athy stops practicing and wonders out loud about Ezekiel, who has just returned from the academy and who she hasn't seen in 6 years. Of course, Lucas is bothered by this, but not even admitting it to himself. He does the typical push you away because I like you but I'm jealous 5-year-old classic, and says, if you're that curious, go see him for yourself. After a snap of his fingers, Athy is in the middle of the sky, free-falling and cursing at the childish warlock. Does he have no concern for her safety? Or at least her mental health? Oh my gosh, why does he keep doing this? Luckily, instead of falling to her death, Athy falls into the arms of the one and only Ezekiel, who instantly smiles at her. Boy, are you not freaked out by this anymore? He grins as he says he missed her, calling her his angel, but Athy is shocked. Ezekiel was just a child the last time she saw him. Who is this charming young man? The original male lead of the story dazzles Athy with his smile as he says he recognized her instantly, even after these 6 years. I mean, I think the entrance and eyes kind of gave her away, but with that blinding smile, sure, Ezekiel, whatever you say. Our own female lead will need to go to the eye doctor because when she says she remembers who he is just radiant. But that is all interrupted when a woman's voice starts asking for Ezekiel. Without any moment's pause, Ezekiel apologizes for being uncourteous and promptly grabs Athy's hand, ushering her into some unknown part of the guard. Athy knows that voice belongs to Janette, but Ezekiel pays no mind to it, thinking that if he answers to her, Athy will disappear without a trace again. He takes her to a beautiful flowery field, which he refers to as his secret spot. And after looking at her for a bit, he reveals that up until he had to go to the academy, after meeting her, he went to the spot where she first fell from the sky every single day, just in case, and waited. Even when he returned for summer holidays each year, he would still go. And that day, when she fell from the sky again, he was waiting for her yet again. Oh my gosh, you guys. This is so sweet and melancholic. He's been waiting for her for years, and Athy was just living her life oblivious to this. Someone give this boy a hug. Athy asks why he did that, and he says he doesn't know. Even though they only shared a few words, Ezekiel gets closer to her and places a strand of her blowing hair behind her ear, telling her that next time... And snap. Once more, she stands before Lucas. Next time what? Darn you, Lucas, why did you do that in that moment? Lucas looks pissed, and I mean pissed. He even asks Athy if he looks annoyed, to which she says he does, and he wonders what is making him feel so awful. Lucas, were you watching Ezekiel and Athy's reunion? He just gives the angriest look ever to Athy and vanishes, leaving her puzzled as to what on earth just happened. That night, she thinks about her encounter with the story's original male lead. She wonders if she's pretty and thinks that maybe that's why Ezekiel seems to have feelings for her. I just want to ask for a round of applause for Athy, because it's rare to see a female lead who actually recognizes someone likes them so fast and isn't back and forth of misunderstandings. Athy thinks that she might be Ezekiel's first love, which is a far step from the original plot in the novel. But since Janette is still the protagonist, he can't really be serious about her. Anyway, she decides to postpone all thoughts about this matter until after her debutante, which is right around the corner. She then wonders about Lucas, who acts like a child because his mind adapted to the age of his body, and appears to be so accomplished but only does all this stuff because he's bored. What is he actually after? Sometime later, Claude and her have their usual tea, and Athy tells him how she's nervous about the debutante, particularly about the dance. Oh, I see where this is going, girl. Claude looks unexpressive as always as he tells her that she can make mistakes, and that if something happens during the dance, it'll be Felix's fault. Even if it were to happen and someone says something bad about her, it would be the last thing they ever said. Anyone else getting killer vibes from Claude again? Athy is brave and doesn't cower away, telling Claude directly that she hoped she might walk in holding his hand instead of Felix, and for the first dance to be with him too. Side note, guys, it seems like Athy is turning 14 this year. Sorry for all the confusion. Our female lead plays her cards well because she knows Claude will never tell her he wants to escort her. So she says she had asked Felix because she knows he doesn't really like that stuff, but that she still really wanted to go with her dad. She plays with her cup, unable to stop a smile from spreading through her lips as she looks at her father while saying that she shouldn't be so greedy, and that she's sure that Felix will be able to make a good job and she'll make him proud. Claude is very calm and still inexpressive as he drinks his cup of tea, and tells her that if she wants him to take her so badly, then it's not something he can't do. Athy shines brighter than Ezekiel, but her glow is completely staged as Claude still tries to play it cool, saying he usually wouldn't go to such spaces as he swirled his spoon in an empty cup. Did you think I wouldn't notice? You're so happy you don't even know what you're doing, you so-called madman. Athy cannot help but jump into his arms excitedly, asking him to promise he'll escort her. And for once, we can see Claude's face looking startled and dazed by her brightness. Still, he composes himself and says he promises, and that is that. Felix is even happier than Claude now that his life is not in danger anymore. Apparently, he's had it rough these last couple of days. His celebration is interrupted by Whitey showing up unannounced. Athy puts on her best face, knowing he's a total liar as he greets her, saying he's lucky to have suddenly met her. She knows this was somehow orchestrated by him. He tries to bring up the matter of her debutante, asking about the matter of her escort, and Athy is quick to reply that Claude is taking her. Whitey looks stunned that the Emperor accepted her request, even nervous. Athy knows he must be plotting something, but she still smiles as Sir Roger tells her that he had wanted to suggest she chose his son as her escort, since he'd just returned from studying in Arlanta. Now it's Athy's turn to be shocked. Weren't Ezekiel and Janette the original male and female leads supposed to show up together at the debutante? It was the beginning of the end for the original Athanasia, when Janette was introduced to Claude. It all went downhill for her from there onwards. Athy and Whitey share some more fake polite remarks and then part ways. Felix and Athy then spot Lucas, who still seems rather angry at her, even though it's been some time since they've seen each other. Still, he kneels to tie her shoelaces when he notices they're undone, and weirdly taps her in the forehead, apparently removing a leaf, but Athy somehow feels lighter after the tap. This seems like an odd detail to include in the story, and you guys know what that means. It'll come back again later as something important. Lucas mentions he'll visit her even though he's busy since she seems to miss him so much, which Athy doesn't really care for much, but she laughs it off. What I wonder is what he's so busy with, since all he usually does is lay around all day. After some more time, the day has finally come. It's Athy's 14th birthday. She is congratulated by all the maids that love her so much and Felix. They all give her various gifts and celebrate together as they shower her in compliments and wishes of happiness. Even Raven seems to be happy for her as he rubs his head against hers. Aw, so cute! Athy is so happy. At night, when Lily is tucking her in bed, she reminds her of what a precious treasure she is, to her and to the whole empire, and thanks her for existing. Apparently, she tells her this every single birthday, which makes Athy feel that Lily is like a mom. Lily looks hesitant to leave her alone, as did everyone that day. Why? Because Claude never showed up. Though he sends her a gift, Claude never spends Athy's birthday with her because to him, that day is not a joyous one at all. It's the anniversary of Diana's death. Claude has spent the whole day by himself, drinking, trying to find some comfort at the bottom of so many bottles. Oh, Claude, you look and act so cold, but you really did love her, didn't you? Athy would have liked to see him this time around, but there's nothing to be done. Who does show up, however, is Lucas, in her room, at night, while she's supposed to be sleeping. Anybody else getting them Twilight vibes? But apparently, just like Claude never sees her on her birthdays, Lucas has not missed a single one in the last 6 years, so Athy is not surprised that he suddenly showed up. She decides to go see Raven together as his gift to her, even though he still thinks they should be as far away from each other as possible. Still, when she expresses she's a bit nervous about her debutante, Lucas comforts her in his Zunderish ways, telling her she'd practiced so much she'd be a fool if she made a mistake. And so the day of the debutante arrives, and as soon as the sun peeks through the hills, Athy is woken up to get the very exhausting royal treatment. The maids work hard all day, and boy did it pay off. Introducing the absolutely gorgeous, awe-striking Princess Athanasia, tiara and all. She looks so good! Claude, move aside. You have been bested on the good look scale. Felix, who is struck by her beauty as well, escorts her to where Claude is waiting. Well, darn it! Athy, you know I appreciate you, but your father just got to the top of the list again. It is illegal to dress this man in these clothes. Artist, please think about our eyes a little bit. Even Athy is blinded. Both of them sparkle and dazzle in the most magnificent ways. I can only assume that Claude must be taken aback given how much she looks like her mother. After some thought, Claude extends his hand to her and actually tells her she looks pretty today. A rare sight, this emperor of ours complimenting Athy wholeheartedly. Smiling, Athy takes his hand and together they head right into the ball. Of course, as soon as they are announced, all eyes turn on them. Athy hesitates, suddenly nervous, and sticks closer to Claude. But with one look from him, the whole of the room bows, not daring to look up. He even tells her he can make them stay that way for the rest of the ball. Oh, Claude, such a scary man. As they walk down the stairs, he comments on how odd it is that she's nervous of this when as a child she used to yank at the Emperor's hair. Athy laughs it off, but at the end of the conversation she's less nervous, which I suspect was Claude's plan all along. Telling her she should have fun, they start dancing together and Athy finally relaxes. Until she steps on his foot. Athy is about extra embarrassed and about to fall when Claude catches her and spins her mid-air princess style. No pun intended. She lands beautifully and Athy doesn't know where to hide when Claude smirks. He smiles as he comments that he'd forgotten that they were different people even though they look so similar. Of course, he's talking about Athy's mother, who gave her her looks, but was a skilled dancer, unlike her daughter who just destroyed his foot. I think this made Claude realize Athy is an entirely different person, which is great since it will allow him to face her more calmly and receptively from now on. The dance ends and Claude compliments her, which makes the audience nearly faint since he is known for being a mad, cruel emperor after all. While the other debutantes dance, Athy is able to spot Mr. White, aka Sir Roger, at the sidelines, and wonders if this story from the book will be repeated. After all, this is then and where, in the original, Janette was introduced as Claude's daughter. How could Claude react if it were to happen this time around? Sir Roger is not alone, as a mysterious man with black hair and black eyes stands next to him. Athy and him lock eyes for a second, but is distracted when people start clapping at the dancers on the dance floor. Still, Athy wonders for a second. The man had black eyes, but why did they look like jeweled eyes for a minute back there? Oh well, it's surely nothing. These details in the stories never amount to anything after all, right? Claude ushers Athy to continue dancing, and when she looks at him, she blurts out her true feelings. Daddy, thank you for being with me today. Thanks to you, I'm going to remember today as a very happy day. She says this knowing that in some minutes, Claude might ditch her for Janette. Still, Claude has been with her since she was a kid, and he's been her first father ever, and she's loved being with him all this time. This is the only time she can say this truthfully, as from now on, she'll have to pretend even harder to survive. Athy turns and says, "Bye, Daddy," letting go of him as she gets ready to face what will come alone. While Claude can only watch with a stuck face, a hand extended, as if reaching out for someone who is about to disappear. This scene is truly pulling at my heartstrings. But things are far from over. When Athy is dancing with the other debutantes, she is approached by whom she feared the most, Janette herself, who asks her if she can tie the ribbon which has come undone. Janette makes Athy fall out of pace with the song, and she accidentally steps on her foot. Apologizing, she says she'll ask someone else about the ribbon, and uncomfortable, she leaves the dance floor. In my opinion, Janette was really out of place here. I mean, they are all dancing, and she suddenly approaches her and interrupts for whatever reason. Anyway, she leaves Athy and comes face to face with none other than Ezekiel, who pretends as if they've never met and introduces himself. Not a moment later, they're dancing, still pretending as if they don't know each other, while Athy repeatedly murders his feet with her awkward dancing skills. Poor girl, she practiced so much! I totally get her, though. I'm a terrible dancer, too. Ezekiel comments on how the Emperor must truly love his daughter, as the rumors say, since he can feel his back burning. Athy is confused until she sees Claude on the other side of the hall staring daggers into poor Ezekiel's back. Still, the young boy does not hesitate as he compliments her for her beauty and brilliance, and as their dance ends, he gives her a kiss on the back of her hand, slipping up on purpose and calling her Lady Angel as he says he looks forward to seeing her again. Athy cannot believe how such a cute boy turned into such a sly creature, since he's clearly teasing her. Oh, these interactions will only get better and better! Ezekiel asks Athanasia who she is, but without even a glance at him, she swiftly dashes away. As she flees, Ezekiel stares at her as though he's delighted to have seen her in such a place. Meanwhile, Janette is browsing for a gift for Athanasia, when suddenly a disguised Anastasius appears, offering his suggestions. A sudden flash of memory then crosses her mind. The more she stares at this stranger, the more he resembles someone. Anastasius then points at a radiant sapphire jewelry, noting that this gift will be precious, especially if her younger sister also has stunning blue eyes like hers. She then responds to his curiosity, explaining that this gift is for her sister, who she's been apart from for too long. Going back to Athanasia, she seems lost, and before long, a random merchant states an unwarranted claim that she's apparently cursed. The merchant then reveals that he used to be a dark magician in his younger years. Acknowledging this, Athanasia asks what kind of curse it is, but despite his confidence, he goofily responds that he doesn't know. But the self-proclaimed dark magician still warns her that she shouldn't be careless with dark magic because it always ends on a tragic note. Hearing this, she asks for his opinion if children conceived from dark magic bear misfortune, but the merchant isn't amused. He explains that that's news to him, but if it were to happen, then that child would certainly bear misfortunes. He then eventually kicks her out, telling her she doesn't belong in such a place. Upon reflecting on what that merchant said, Athanasia wonders what happened after the ending of the novel. After finishing checking the area, Athanasia and Lucas head back to the palace. Upon returning to her room, Athanasia is caught off guard by a doll that is in her image, to which Lucas responds boastfully, claiming that it didn't even take him much effort to make. He then tells her that despite her looking ugly, she's far better than the doll he made, making her upset. Later that day, in an unexpected turn of events, Janette and Athanasia spend time together boating by the lake. This awkward atmosphere breaks when Janette tells Athanasia that they have similar eye colors. Shortly, she then hands her the present that she had bought for her, but this is only met with silence. Just as Janette tries to explain, her eyes glisten when Athanasia tells her that she's excited to wear it to the next tea party. Janette then expresses how happy she is. Afterward, when Athanasia returns, she's immediately jumped by Raven, but Felix warns her not to get close, which prompts her to talk to Lucas about how to prevent herself from absorbing Raven right after. But Lucas replies, saying that she shouldn't be too attached because Raven is not a pet. It's just a divine beast, which isn't received fondly by Athanasia. She throws a pillow at him, asking him to be sympathetic for once, but he tells her to calm down since this is going to be the last time they're going to see each other for a while. Lucas shares with the puzzled Athanasia that he's going to find the Sacred World Tree. In a dream, Claude is in unbearable pain, calling out to Janette. She then rushes over, not knowing what to do. She wonders how he can manage an empire despite everything he's going through every day. And just as she ponders if the rumors are true, Anastasia shows up, asking what rumor she's exactly talking about. She reveals it's about Claude being cursed. Meanwhile, Athanasia wakes up as though she's just had a nightmare. Soon after, she leans her body forward and sees a pretty little bluebird. It's a gift from Ezekiel. He probably recognized her when she ran away from him at the markets. She then tells her maids, who are very excited about Ezekiel probably falling for her, to keep this matter a secret, whilst thinking she might need to replace them if the rumor really does spread. Later, news reached Claude that Athanasia received a gift from Ezekiel, and he's not amused by this. She tries to explain, but she's only met with deaf ears, while her father thinks that Ezekiel is being bold and disrespectful. But Felix interjects, explaining that it's natural for Athanasia to have so many suitors. Before he could even continue, Claude shuts him up and sends him away. After he leaves, Athanasia expresses that she doesn't really want to get married, and that he remains to be her favorite person, visibly calming Claude's mood. Athanasia can't help but think about what Felix just said, prompting her to ask if she looks similar to her mother. It takes a moment for him to say something, but it seems that this question pains him. He explains that he'd forgotten how someone looks after many years. Athanasia knows that she shouldn't have brought up her mother in front of her father, but she knows that no matter what, her father won't do anything to hurt her now. Seeing her father's melancholic face, she boldly asks for a wish only he can grant. Later, Lucas finally sees the famous bluebird from Ezekiel, which he dislikes. He thinks that it would have been better if it was a hawk, claiming that because of its size, it's not going to be long before it will be eaten by a predator. She then asks if he's really going to leave today, which he explains that he has to. Since the Sacred World Tree only bears fruit every 500 years, he has to take this chance to consume one so that he can replenish his mana. Knowing how hard his venture is going to be, Athanasia asks Lucas why he won't consume her mana if that makes it easier for him. Not knowing how to respond, he teases her, saying that she doesn't want him anyway, which, to his surprise, she agrees with. She says that she's just worried about a friend. He eventually leaves without hearing anything more from Athanasia, and it did not take her long to feel lonely already. As Lucas begins his journey, he ponders the words that Athanasia said, that she considers him as a friend. This prompts him to remember an agonizing time when someone told him that he'll be alone forever. But this is short-lived when he finally realizes that he finally has someone. A few days later, Athanasia attends the next tea party wearing the ribbon that Janette gave her. Seeing this, Janette radiates with joy. Afterward, their party finally begins, and the other ladies talk about the upcoming events, prompting her to recall that she has to attend all those events. A gleaming Janette then asks if Athanasia will be attending all the events, and even though she's actually required to, she responds with uncertainty. Janette then explains that it will be the first time she'll be allowed to attend the festival because of her health, which Athanasia thinks is just an excuse crafted by Roger. The real reason probably is her magical limit to hide her jewel eyes. Shortly after, Raven shows up out of nowhere, scaring the rest of the ladies, but Athanasia reassures them by showing that she can tame him. After recognizing that Raven is docile, Janette asks if she can pet him as well. Suddenly, as they are petting him, Athanasia feels like shock and starts coughing up blood, leaving everyone petrified in shock. As Athanasia collapses, she emits a blue beam around her, blowing everyone away. Meanwhile, news arrives to Claude about what just happened. Athanasia experiences a state of nothingness and loss. It's as if there's something dear that was taken away from her. Eventually, she wakes up, and the first thing she sees is Felix and Lily, who tell her that she's been asleep for 10 days. She immediately asks if Lucas has come back, but seeing their reactions, it seems that he hasn't come back. Then she asks about her father, but seeing that they both look dejected, she immediately attempts to stand up and tries to go to his chamber. Apparently, Her father risked his life just to save hers, which is why ever since she lost consciousness, Claude also hasn't woken up. Seeing that she can't stand up by herself, Felix carries her to her father's chamber. But upon arriving, she just sees an unconscious Claude. After begging her father to wake up, and him remaining unresponsive, she drops to her knees and cries. Shortly after, her father wakes up but doesn't recognize her at all, leaving her dumbfounded. Claude asks a baffled Athanasia who she is, but she doesn't even know where to begin explaining. Seeing her unresponsive, he calls upon Felix. Felix rushes towards him and expresses his joy at seeing him finally awake. But this just confuses Claude, because he's acting as if he hasn't seen him for a long time, which Felix confirms. He's been asleep for the past 10 days. Claude then scolds Felix for letting Athanasia in. At first, he thinks that he's upset because he doesn't want her to see him in this state. But the more he speaks, Felix realizes that he doesn't recognize her. Dumbfounded, Felix quickly explains that Athanasia is his only child, but Claude thinks that he's insane. Athanasia then tries to say something, but Claude tells her to know her place and threatens her. Claude then notices that she has the same eyes as the royals, which he thinks is the reason why she's so bold. And just as he attempts to approach her to gouge it out, he sends his mana and starts coughing up blood. Athanasia is petrified as she trembles in fear and pain while she looks at her father collapsing. Ever since that day, she has been spared but locked up inside the palace as Claude ordered. Eventually, Lily informs Athanasia that Raven has been missing ever since the mana outbreak incident. This makes Athanasia recall what Lucas has said about her avoiding Raven. Athanasia wonders why she's been losing everyone around her. Meanwhile, Felix has been trying to explain to Claude that Athanasia is his daughter, and the reason he's ill is because he tried to save her. But Claude still thinks this is a sick joke that's getting annoying by the minute. Claude thinks that Felix has lost his mind for insisting that this unfunny joke is true. Frankly, even if it's true, Claude can't believe he would save a child. He thinks even his brother Anastasius would laugh at this from his grave if it were true. Still, he can't keep it out of his mind that Athanasia called him dad. As he peruses the documents and sees that it's all aligned with Athanasia being his daughter, as well as Felix vouching for her as Claude's legitimate child, he wonders if she's a dark magician. Even when he points out the chair in his office that's catered for Athanasia alone, he still refuses to believe it, despite Felix asserting it's his daughter's. Elsewhere, Athanasia is starting to adjust to the life confined inside the Emerald Palace. She shouldn't complain much. After all, her initial goal in this life is just to survive. But her maids, on the other hand, are worried, thinking that she's very upset. Meanwhile, Claude is still on this tangent about Athanasia when he sees a building he's never seen before. But Felix tells him that it's a library he built just for her. Having had enough of Felix's jokes, Claude decides to take a look at the building himself. But as he approaches, the guards stationed in the area greet him and reassure him that they'll protect the building for Athanasia's sake. Hearing this, Claude quickly returns to his tracks. Athanasia, at this moment, receives the letters Janette has been sending her, all of which consist of messages of happiness since Athanasia woke up from her 10-day sleep. After reading everything, Athanasia feels delighted and asks Lily to grab a nice paper so that she could reply to Janette. Going back to Claude and Felix, they happen to pass by a rose garden, which catches the former's attention. Felix explains that it was Claude's idea as well to make this garden, but he just glares at him. But Felix takes a stand, saying that even if he glares at him for the entire day, the truth won't change. A few days later, Athanasia and Janette have been continuously sending letters to each other. But one letter stands out the most, which Athanasia receives. It's Janette's mother coming to the capital. Someone who plotted against Athanasia in the original novel. An exhausted Claude returns to his chambers, complaining that he's had enough of all the nonsensical chatter Felix has been doing. As he heads to his bed, he sees a drawing of him and Athanasia, but he thinks of them as voodoo charms. Just as he thinks this is an aha moment for Felix to shut up, Felix instead is awed by this sight, saying that Claude must have really cherished these drawings, even going as far as to cast a preservation spell on them. Claude is in disbelief of what Felix is claiming. Him preserving it? Him cherishing it? It all sounds like make-believe to him. But even though he's perplexed, Felix tries to explain the drawing's stories and when it was given to him, but this only makes Claude even more confused with reality. Just as he wants this to stop, Felix shows him another reality-shattering sight. It's a portrait of him and Athanasia. Still, Claude finds this absurd. No way he would make such a face. This has to be witchcraft. He wonders if he should have Athanasia executed promptly. Seeing this, Felix decides to leave Claude on his own. After Felix leaves, a sudden vivid memory then befalls Claude. It's a memory of Athanasia asking him for a wish only he can grant. Ever since that, Claude has suffered severe insomnia. Claude can't sleep and is recalling Diana, the person he doesn't want to recall the most because she died despite his pleading. In his visions, she keeps telling him to take care of her child. But how could he possibly love someone who lived but not her whom he loved so much? He tells her to come back as a ghost if she's so worried about Athanasia and take care of her herself. And just as he looks up at his vision of Diana, she gradually disappears, which makes him immediately stand up and embrace it, but still it fades. This is the reason why Claude remains indifferent. It's because he has felt loss and he doesn't want to play this game anymore. He doesn't want to feel vulnerable and hopeless. He doesn't want to get hurt. As the sun rises, Claude wakes up with a loud throbbing outside. And before he even realizes it, he's already sitting at his throne being greeted and celebrated by the attendees because it's his birthday. Meanwhile, Felix is worried because Claude is obviously looking like he hasn't had much sleep. Then, Lord Padma approaches him, asking why Athanasia is not around, as they had thought that she would be present, similar to what happened at her debutante ball. But Claude only gazes at him, not amused. At the Emerald Palace, Hannah checks up on Athanasia, who's just killing time with Birdie. Athanasia then asks why it's so quiet around, to which Hannah explains that everyone's busy in preparation for the banquet tonight. Athanasia thinks that it might be because it's her father's birthday today, which she was originally going to attend, but she didn't receive any invitation. Seeing her visible sadness, Hannah tries to cheer her up, saying that dinner will be extra special, which Athanasia appreciates. Shortly after, royal knights show up at the Emerald Palace, announcing that Claude has asked Athanasia to show up at the banquet promptly. Athanasia arrives at the banquet not knowing what to do, but before long, a knight asks her to kneel before Claude, which causes a scene amongst all the attendees present. Claude then states that Athanasia's presence alone is disturbing him, even on his birthday. But before he can even continue, Felix tries to calm him down. Claude threatens that he'll execute him if he says anything further. He then proclaims to everyone present that Athanasia is not his daughter, nor is she a princess. Rather, she's a criminal, and she's supposed to be executed the next time he lays eyes on her. But he's just not in the mood at the moment. With that, Emperor Claude concludes the banquet. Right now, Claude is as cold as ice, with no regard for other people. Just like the cold-hearted emperor in the novel. He then orders the guards to escort Athanasia away, but as they grab her arms, she pushes them away with her magic, stunning everyone at the banquet. Athanasia exclaims that she'll be leaving voluntarily, shifting her emotions to match Claude's, coldly congratulating him for his birthday. She promptly leaves after giving him an indifferent gaze. Afterward, Athanasia dashes away, tripping as she trembles in fear. And just behind her is Ezekiel, who's been following her as she runs away from the banquet. Ezekiel approaches the collapsed Athanasia. He then kneels and puts on her sandals that she dropped. He then asks if she's fine, but as he looks up to her face, she begins to tear up. What kind of ignorant question is that? Of course she's not fine. Athanasia hasn't been fine ever since Claude lost his memories of her. She turns her head around, claiming that she's not crying. Athanasia knows that she's not so innocent either. She knows that she just deceived Claude so she could survive, but now she has grown attached to him. In her previous life, she was always lonely and poor, and now it's the same case. The dreams she's been wanting to reach remain impossible. Ezekiel comforts her, saying that he didn't see anything, prompting Athanasia to burst into tears. Meanwhile, Claude also rushes to his chamber, seemingly unable to forget Athanasia's cold gaze, which causes him a headache as he feels as though something is missing. After a while, Ezekiel returns to his father, who's upset that he chased after Athanasia, who has recently been publicly shamed by the emperor. But Ezekiel disapproves of this, saying that Roger has always told him to be rational at all times. But today he learned to oppose that because he'll never have the courage to see Athanasia's tears, nor to forgive those who made her feel that way. It's the first time Roger realizes that children truly don't always respect their parents' wishes. It's been a couple of days since the incident, and Janette has stopped sending Athanasia letters, prompting the latter to think that it might be Roger's doing. Meanwhile, Cess is wondering if hitting Claude on the head would jog his memories, but Hannah discourages this, as they would be arrested for treason. Lily then drags Athanasia outside for a breath of fresh air, and as she steps outside, she doesn't realize how bright the outside is because the last time she was walking outside was when she walked home alone after the banquet. At the Emperor's chambers, Claude, despite not having any sleep, has a clear mind. He thinks that this might be a sign for him to finally end the source of his persistent headache. Meanwhile, Athanasia begins to pluck the roses on the hedges of the royal garden. As she continues to walk her path, she stumbles upon Claude, who's still wearing that same old cold gaze. He breaks the ice, saying that he should have disposed of her when he had the chance, then shoots her with his magic. But something shields her. It's protection magic that even Claude acknowledges was his. Claude continues to shoot his magic at Athanasia, but it keeps getting blocked. He says that he hates everything about her and that he needs to obliterate it. Athanasia wonders if she's being punished. At the Mana outbreak incident, it was Claude who sacrificed himself to save her, and now he's trying to kill her. How can she ever call him father after that? The least she can do right now is prevent her father from killing her, so she steals her resolve to disappear using her own powers. Moments later, she vanishes before Claude, her last words being her farewell. Shortly after, Felix and Lily arrive, asking what had just happened. Claude responds that Athanasia vanished. He then wrathfully orders both of them to look for her promptly. Elsewhere, Lucas finally arrives at the Sacred World Tree, but unfortunately, there seem to be no fruits left. Having no other choice, he casts a fireball at the tree in desperation. As a result, natural disasters are occurring around the continent because of Lucas's damaging actions to the World Tree. Meanwhile, Athanasia is currently searching for books related to memories in Janette's room. Athanasia and Janette are currently having tea, where the latter is all smiles and joy, and the former, well, let's just say she's kinda confused as to how things turned out this way. A quick backstory on Athanasia. In the Obelian Empire, all magicians must register, whether employed by the imperial family or not. But in Athanasia's case, Lily discouraged her from revealing her powers. Perhaps Lily just wanted to keep Athanasia in check since her powers suddenly arose. To top it all off, she can't even control them well. Recalling this, Athanasia wonders if she truly absorbed Raven, and if this is the reason why Lucas highly discouraged being attached to Raven. After Athanasia disappeared from Claude's assault, she's been on the run. She's been alone and constantly anxious despite having experienced this already in her previous life. She then hears news about the Emperor still trying to find her through image stones, making Athanasia wonder if Claude really wants to kill her that badly. She continues to live like this until she remembers the merchant who told her that she was cursed, prompting her to wonder if Janette is the person who cursed her. After all, she's the only person connected to her who's associated with dark magic. At some point, Athanasia witnesses Janette being emotional for the first time because she insists on going to her aunt's funeral, Countess Rosaria, but Roger stops her from coming along with them. In the original novel, it was Rosaria who plotted against Athanasia so that Janette would become the rightful heir. Moments later, as Janette goes back to her room, she sees a letter from Athanasia containing the meetup 3 days from now. Meanwhile, Athanasia wonders if she did the right thing, or if she's just being impulsive because they were pen pals for a bit. Thinking back on how cruel it is that Janette can't even see her only family member, Athanasia wonders if she should visit Claude for a change. She could always run away if something goes awry. And just as she thinks that she'd go visit him, she instantly teleports into his chamber. She sees her sleeping father and a lot of scattered papers everywhere. It turns out they're all her drawings. Athanasia wonders why her drawings are scattered all around the floor of Claude's chambers, even the ones she didn't give him as gifts. As she continues to look around, she also notices that Claude's gotten a lot slimmer, making her upset because he should have been satisfied and healthy now that she's out of the picture. Seems like Athanasia has had a better time than him despite her struggles ever since running away. Not long after, Claude wakes up, but Athanasia doesn't seem alarmed. Rather, she's curious. Claude is surprisingly docile. It turns out he thinks of this as another dream. Apparently, he's been having dreams of her every single day ever since she disappeared. But this time, thinking that this is the right time to talk to him, She asks him if he still likes to kill her, given that he's been trying so hard to look for her. The fool still says yes, even going as far as to say that he'll rip her to pieces. Athanasia is upset, declaring that she'll never die by his hands before disappearing once again, leaving Claude dumbfounded as he realizes that it isn't a dream after all. 3 days later, Athanasia finally goes to Janette's room as promised. As she opens her bedroom window, Janette immediately embraces Athanasia, not wanting any time wasted. Janette cries, expressing that she was so scared she'd never see her again, but now she's just happy, which Athanasia also reciprocates. Ever since that night, Athanasia has been visiting Janette often. At present, they're enjoying their precious tea time. But Athanasia is still lost in her thoughts, thinking about the fate of the late Countess Rosaria, who was apparently killed in a landslide, which wouldn't have happened if their lives still follow the original novel. Feeling bad for her, Athanasia asks if they can go outside. Janette lived a life confined to Duke Alpheus's estate, just like how Athanasia was at the Imperial Palace. Now they want to spend time outside for a change. After Athanasia wears her disguise, they teleport outside the estate, then stroll through the market. She then wonders why Janette's not been saying anything. With Athanasia using magic, perhaps she's already accustomed to it. Athanasia then proposes that they should be more casual with each other now that they're friends. Shortly after, a disguised Anastasius shows up again and approaches them, recognizing Janette. Athanasia is astonished seeing him, thinking that he uncannily looks like her dad. As Anastasius looks at Athanasia, he wonders if she's the sister Janette was referring to when she bought the ribbon, making Janette increasingly frantic. This awkward interaction goes on until suddenly kids run past them. Anastasius then tells them that those kids are headed to the craft shop, offering to escort them there. But despite Athanasia's skepticism, Janette is careless and follows him, leaving Athanasia no choice but to follow along. As they enter the craft shop, Athanasia is immediately hooked by the displays. Meanwhile, Janette tries to explain to Anastasius to keep her knowledge about her sister a secret. Like before, Janette realizes that Anastasius resembles her father. But as he inquires more, she takes back what she said at the same time, shifting her mood. Athanasia notices this and leads Janette away from Anastasius, who she finds incredibly suspicious. Later that day, Athanasia gives Janette a bracelet as a gift, though she thinks that it might not suit her taste. This thought is short-lived when she sees Janette's delighted expression while squeezing the bracelet tightly to her chest. As the day concludes, they bid farewell to Anastasius. Athanasia then grabs another glance at him. For some reason, now she thinks that he resembles Lucas. Perhaps because of the hair color. The two head back before dinner time so that they can hang out again and watch the fireworks the next time. Janette then expresses how overjoyed she is right now that she's spending time with Athanasia, because in the past few days, she had thought that Athanasia was gone, and that made her life like hell. Satisfied, Athanasia happily concludes their secret outing. Elsewhere, Lucas somehow snags a branch from the Sacred World tree. Contented, he finally leaves. He can't wait to get home as Athanasia is probably waiting for him. That night, the rain is pouring heavily, and in Janette's bedroom, Ezekiel enters to check up on Janette. But she tells him that he should take some rest since he's been busy searching for Athanasia. Though Janette had been with Athanasia earlier, she promised to keep her whereabouts a secret, despite her feeling bad for Ezekiel. Especially since Athanasia has done a lot for her and makes her happy. Shortly, Janette hears people arguing inside the manor, prompting her to snoop around and see what's going on. To her surprise, she sees Anastasius. Roger introduces Anastasius to Janette as his acquaintance and says that he will be staying at the estate for a while. Janette then apologizes for having shown up suddenly, explaining that she's just concerned about the voice she just heard before leaving, as per Roger's orders. As she heads back, she steals a glance at Anastasius, worried that he might say something to Roger. Meanwhile, Roger is disappointed by what just happened, but Anastasius reassures him that he won't reveal his real identity. Roger notes, however, that since Janette is a smart kid, there's no way she won't see the semblance between Anastasius and Claude. The smile on Anastasius' face fades as he tells him that he shouldn't talk so much. Roger has been plotting to gradually climb to high society using Janette, but at one point, Anastasius shows up and introduces himself, revealing that he's the father of Janette. The fact that Anastasius is alive is troublesome, let alone everyone finding out that Janette is his daughter. Everything he's been building up will be for naught. Alarmed by his presence, Roger plans on getting rid of him. A few days later, Janette snoops around, seemingly wanting to approach Anastasius. He quickly senses her and asks her what she's up to which she responds that she wants to stroll to the garden, which he claims he's been wanting to go to as well. Janette then guides him through the garden and asks him to keep their encounter at the festival a secret, to which he reassures her that he still remembers their secret. Shortly after, a maid approaches Janette, informing her that Roger summons her. Later, Roger informs Janette that he likes her to accompany him to visit the Imperial Palace. Though, knowing that she's worried about Claude, he tells her that she'll be able to look at him from a distance. Afterward, Janette also informs Athanasia about the news, making her wonder if she should follow them too, since she misses everyone at the palace. At the Imperial Palace, Janette decides to take a stroll and check on the Emerald Palace garden. Shortly after, she sees the Emperor lying on the ground, and she quickly rushes toward him to check. To her surprise, Athanasia also comes to check on him. As Claude regains consciousness, Athanasia quickly finds a place to hide, only leaving Janette to tend to a groggy Claude. Before long, Lucas arrives, expressing thanks to Janette. As they leave, Claude can't help but take a look at Janette as he's being carried away. Sometime later, an elated Roger informs Janette that they've been granted an audience with Claude. Roger thinks that this is the perfect opportunity to execute his plan now that Athanasia is out of the picture. He then orders Janette to go back to her room, and as she returns, she sees Athanasia, who has seemingly been waiting for her. Athanasia is embarrassed to have been seen by Janette, but can't help it because she was worried about her father. She then asks Janette if her father is fine, to which Janette responds, saying that he was escorted out by his knights, so she's not entirely sure. Janette then tells Athanasia about their granted audience, which makes Athanasia worry that she'll end up truly alone if the original novel's events unfold. Claude recognizing Janette as a princess, since he still hasn't recovered his memory. The following day, Anastasius approaches Janette and notices her blue-jeweled eyes. She took it off because it was uncomfortable. Now she's worried that she might have been caught. Janette runs away from Anastasius while covering her eyes. Moments later, a worried Athanasia checks on Janette, who seems uneasy. Although the latter wants to reveal the truth so badly, she just can't say it. As a result, Janette's silence makes Athanasia worry even more. The following day, Janette is once again looking for a chance to talk to Anastasius. She wants to ask him again to keep what he saw a secret. Anastasius, who notices her, approaches her first, asking what's the matter. But before she can even respond, he kneels down and asks if she's of royal descent. Despite her silence, her horrified face answers his question. But he reassures her, saying that this secret, too, he will keep a secret. Meanwhile, Athanasia, who's been spying on them, sees this. There's no way someone like that would be willing to keep such information a secret, so for her, he's way too suspicious. Later, Athanasia asks about Anastasius, whom she claims to have seen around the estate. But Janette explains that she actually knows nothing about him besides their encounter and little secrets, making Athanasia increasingly more suspicious. Since Janette is too naive, Athanasia decides to look up Anastasius herself. But despite her efforts, there seemed to be no information regarding him. She's also met a dead end trying to find a solution for her father's memory loss. That night, Roger confronts Anastasius, telling him not to get close to Janette, but he shifts the blame to Roger, who should have been the one managing Janette properly. As a last piece of advice, Anastasius tells Roger that he should keep Janette's attention on Claude so that she won't learn Anastasius' identity. The day finally arrives when Claude meets and has an audience with Janette, but it all unfolds in awkward silence. Just as she begins to speak, Claude falls asleep. Janette is disheartened, not being able to talk to him at all, and decides to leave. Moments later, Claude opens his eyes as the excruciating headaches start hitting him again. Later that day, Roger informs Janette that Claude has requested another meeting with her, which confuses her. On the other hand, Roger can't wait for Claude to grow fond of Janette so that he can use him to get rid of Anastasius. As Janette returns to her room, she encounters Anastasius again. Curious about what got her so jolly, she whispers that she's going to meet the Emperor again. After encouraging her happiness, he can't help but stare at her, which she can't help but notice, prompting her to ask why he's staring so much. He explains that he's just glad that she's happy. Janette responds that she truly is happy because, after all, they're her family. Afterward, as Anastasius goes on about his day, he wonders who Janette resembles. Shortly after, he passes by Ezekiel.
Ezekiel also shares Athanasia's suspicions about Anastasius. To top it all off, his father is acting strangely after meeting him, and other strange things have been happening. He wonders if all these are coincidences. Meanwhile, at the Emerald Palace, Lily is quietly sewing, tending to her own tasks, when Athanasia suddenly appears. Lily embraces Athanasia immediately, expressing her worry ever since her disappearance. But Athanasia tells her that she'll just be quick. She just visited because she was worried about her, but she's still afraid that Claude might kill her. Lily counters this, explaining that the Emperor has been anxious about Athanasia too, and even instructed them to welcome her warmly if she ever returns. Athanasia then asks if Claude has regained his memories, but Lily says no. Still, Athanasia wonders if she should see him. Meanwhile, Claude and Janette have another meeting, but Claude remains unresponsive despite Janette's efforts at conversation. All in his mind is that whenever Janette is around, his headaches are gone. He's not even paying attention to her. Athanasia sees the sight of Claude and Janette together, thinking that if she weren't around, they would have been happy together like in the original novel. Disheartened, she decides to leave promptly. She teleports back to Janette's room, but to her surprise, Ezekiel is there. He then asks where she's been and notes that he's been searching for her earnestly. Athanasia tells him that she's been on the run ever since, which worries Ezekiel. He then offers for her to stay at the estate for the time being. He promises to ensure that she won't be found out. Though she wants to refuse it, she doesn't want to cause any more problems for Janette, so she has no choice but to accept it. Shortly after, Janette returns to her room, seeing Athanasia and Ezekiel together. Athanasia then quickly pretends like it's the first time she's seen Janette, which she quickly catches on to. Ezekiel tells her that Athanasia will be staying at the estate for a while. For some reason, Janette is sad. She thinks their secret will no longer be just between her and Athanasia. Athanasia is grateful for the room Ezekiel offered. Finally, she doesn't have to hop from inn to inn. Janette, on the other hand, feels bad that she's not able to do something for Athanasia. Meanwhile, it's easy for Ezekiel to do so. After a while, Ezekiel talks with Janette about her meeting with the Emperor, but he notices that she's sulky, wondering if she's not happy that they found Athanasia. In truth, Janette is just sad that Ezekiel thinks that Athanasia came to see him when, in fact, it was her Athanasia was looking for. Meanwhile, Athanasia reflects on Janette and Claude becoming closer, and that if she's ever forgotten, at least now she won't face plots against her, and she has powers to defend herself. After all, her initial plan was just to survive, yet she still feels lonely. Since settling at the Alpheus estate, Ezekiel has visited her regularly to keep her company. He also asks how she managed while on the run. Realizing how tough it must have been for her, he invites her to the garden, the very place where they first met. Still, she wonders why he'd choose this spot, filled with her embarrassing memories. Moments later, Athanasia starts plucking and sniffing the flowers. Watching her, Ezekiel finds himself utterly captivated by her beauty. Unable to hold back, he reaches out to fix her hair. But when she notices, he immediately pulls his hand back in embarrassment. Claude once again falls asleep while on another meeting with Janette, but she still leaves somewhat optimistic. Afterward, she reports this to Roger, who believes that there's progress between the two. Unbeknownst to him, Claude just sleeps when she's around. In actuality, Janette realizes that the Emperor probably doesn't care about her at all. Later, she visits Athanasia, who chatters about the books Ezekiel lent her. Janette also notices that even after hours of conversation with her, Athanasia asks nothing about her. She feels like something is missing. Janette then decides to open up about this with Anastasius, who's been noticing her uneasiness for a while. She tells him that she had thought she'd be happy to spend time with the Emperor and the Princess, but now she notices a gap between them. Which is true. There is a gap because they don't even know that Janette is part of their family, which Anastasius points out. Still, Janette considers them family. Hearing Janette talk more about how her family makes her family, Anastasius becomes increasingly irritated. Anastasius tells Janette that even if she reveals herself as a blood-related family member, the Emperor and the Princess might not like the idea of her being part of the family, as the life of royals is rather complex. He goes on to say that perhaps the only reason the Emperor is granting her an audience is because the Princess ran away, and he's trying to fill a void. But once she comes back, he'll just forget about her. Unsettled, Janette asks how he can say this as if he knows the Emperor himself, but he just gives her a cold gaze. Shortly, Roger arrives and seeks some private time with Anastasius. As Janette leaves, she heads straight to Athanasia, asking her what she thinks of the idea of them being sisters. This only catches Athanasia off guard, and she couldn't respond with a single word. Seeing this reaction, Janette is devastated and leaves. Athanasia feels bad that she's not able to give Janette the reaction that she likes. On the other hand, the latter, despite being heartbroken, still thinks that Athanasia likes her. The next day, Anastasius presents Janette with a snow globe as an apology, owning up to his boundary-crossing mistake. Janette accepts it graciously and apologizes in return, recognizing that his concern was purely out of worry for her well-being. Unbeknownst to Janette, Anastasius had enchanted the snow globe with a spell. The unsuspecting Janette feels for the first time that someone truly cares if she's upset or not. In reality, Anastasius harbors a hidden agenda. He originally intends to manipulate her, but since it was tougher than anticipated, he resorts to the spell. He even makes obtaining the gift a challenge for her because he's still upset with her. After giving her the snow globe, he leaves the room, only for Athanasia to bump into him suddenly. This triggers a static shock between them, growing Athanasia's suspicions. Anastasius endures the lingering pain from the shock, thinking that Claude's protective barrier on Athanasia is still a hassle. Later, Athanasia apologizes to Janette too. Janette sees that Athanasia feels bad as well on her behalf and realizes she's at fault for asking strange questions. Janette then firms up her determination to reconcile with Athanasia. In another meeting, Claude zones out again, thinking of Athanasia. Meanwhile, Janette musters up the courage to ask if he misses Athanasia. This jolts Claude back to the meeting and admits yes, that's exactly what he was pondering. He expresses his ongoing search for her and tells her, as well as Felix, that he doesn't want to harm her anymore. Back at the estate, Janette rushes to tell Athanasia everything and urges her to meet Claude. Although Athanasia hesitates, unsure about this. Despite Athanasia's claim that she won't meet Claude again, she sneaks around the palace anyway, going back on her word to Janette. She wonders why Claude deployed knights and magicians to search for her. Isn't this a bit too far? Soon, she spots Felix, and since he's not sensitive to magic, she follows him discreetly using her invisibility spell. But in a flash, his sword points towards her. He's on high alert! As Felix turns his head, he profusely apologizes, shrinking back in fear as he realizes that it's Athanasia. Athanasia remains stunned by his unexpectedly fierce side. She then explains she's just there for a quick visit to check on everyone, prompting Felix to reveal how much Claude misses her and has been searching everywhere. Athanasia gives in and soon stands before Claude, who fixes her with his usual cold gaze. She breaks the tension first by asking how he's been, but he stays silent and orders Felix to leave them alone. Noticing Felix's concern, Athanasia reassures him that it's okay. After he leaves, she sits at the familiar table she hasn't seen in ages. Claude then asks a series of questions about her whereabouts and activities ever since, to which she replies that she's been wandering and getting by. As she speaks, Athanasia notices Claude looks even thinner and more worn than last time. She puzzles over why he's interrogating her like a concerned father, especially after denying he's her dad. Gathering her nerve, she questions his motives, which he admits he doesn't fully know. He just feels unsettled seeing her sad expression. Suddenly, headaches hit Claude again and dismisses Athanasia, insisting she stay at the Emerald Palace. She hurries to alert Felix, who checks on her before rushing to Claude's side. As Felix nears, Claude commands him to summon Janette. Overhearing this, Athanasia feels deeply disheartened. Athanasia spots Janette approaching her after another session with Claude. Honestly, she's unsure what to say to Janette, especially since she recently learned Claude can only sleep when Janette is nearby. Her confusion grows when Claude insists that she stay at the Emerald Palace despite his memory loss, and now she faces this new news about Janette. Though what she mulls over more is the possibility that her father truly worries about her. Her thoughts get interrupted when Lucas suddenly shows up in front of her face, startling Janette too. Athanasia then excuses them both and takes Lucas into a private room. A frustrated Athanasia gets in his face, demanding if he knows how long she's waited for him. Tears begin to shed as she cries, alarming Lucas. She rapidly tells him everything. Her mana outburst, Claude nearly killing her, her escape, and her living with Janette. Overwhelmed, he urges her to calm down. Yet, he's the one raging at Claude for causing her such suffering. This is short-lived when Athanasia quickly smacks him to snap him out of it. With Janette gone, Lucas tries piecing together Athanasia's story, but it baffles him. He has done everything to prevent her powers from going haywire. After Athanasia pleads with the greatest archmage, Lucas, to heal her father, he promptly inspects Claude while he's asleep. But what Lucas discovers shocks him. It's not just memory loss. Claude is dying too. Meanwhile, when Janette returns to the estate, Anastasius greets her and asks how it went. She shares that the Emperor apparently can't sleep without her presence. Janette views this as a positive since he's finally able to rest, but Anastasius' sly smile hints otherwise. Athanasia struggles to understand what Lucas means, but he clarifies. Claude's issue isn't mere memory loss. It's something more deadly. Lucas then casts a spell that briefly eases the tension on the sleeping Claude's sleeping face, but it shatters almost instantly. Even the great Lucas can't probe deeper. He explains he can only temporarily relieve symptoms, not cure the memory loss, leaving Athanasia exclaim in disappointment. Lucas reveals that he noticed Claude's illness even before he left. Then again, this isn't a normal illness but a curse, noting that it's a punishment for those who wielded dark magic. He explains to a confused Athanasia that Claude's forgetfulness, assault on her, and constant summons for Janette all stem from it. He's likely calling Janette because her mana acts as a stabilizer. As they retreat to Athanasia's room, she presses why her father ever turned to dark magic. Lucas urges her to remember, but she's got nothing, until he points out the mana outburst incident. That explosion hurled him back in time, when Claude was still consumed in dark magic. Her uniquely proportioned mana triggered it, Lucas explains, though Athanasia still feels in denial. Lucas counters that she should know, because she's experienced this before, shocking her. In Lucas's mind, now that he's regained his mana, Lucas sees Athanasia's magical aura clearly. He finds it fascinating and looks forward to what happens next. Lucas explains that the dark magic inside Claude was broken before fully taking effect. Though he noticed it back then, it wasn't his concern, so he ignored it. This piques Athanasia's curiosity. Lucas then theorized that the dark magic faded over time, but now that it's come back, they can't simply destroy it, or Claude will die. Athanasia sheds tears again, startling Lucas. He mulls it over that if he'll just die, he should just do so, as prolonging this only torments Athanasia further, grating on Lucas's nerves. He recalls youth, when his instructor lost someone dear. Lucas just dismisses it. But the instructor warned that he'd understand that grief one day, and hoped it would never come. Even after his own instructor's death, Lucas never grasped it, nor did he want to. He wonders if Athanasia will also be devastated if Claude goes, frustrating him even more. Lucas levels with her, saying that despite Claude's headaches around her and still wanting her presence, proves he cares. Still, the dark magic causes him to die soon. Athanasia ponders the dream she had of the original novel, where Claude summons Janette. She can't fathom that even with its beautiful ending, it leads to Claude's death. Sensing her distress, Lucas lightens the mood by complaining about his endless tasks right after returning from his journey. Athanasia then teases him if he wants a kiss for his troubles. This freezes him. He points to his cheek expectantly, dead serious. Shocked he's for real, Athanasia relents with a quick peck. Unbeknownst to them, Lily sees this. Lily retreats in disbelief. When Felix peeks in later, he sees only Athanasia alone, leaving Lily to doubt her own eyes. The following mornings, Athanasia visits Claude daily. He's sleeping better thanks to Lucas's help, gradually regaining some strength despite his persistent memory loss, though it's only temporary. Soon, a maid delivers a cake. Knowing her father dislikes sweets, Athanasia wonders if it's for her. It turns out Felix ordered it, as Claude stares in disgust at the cake. Unwilling to eat it alone, she sips lippy tea instead. The flavor floods her with memories, drawing a warm smile that captivates Claude. And even Felix. Claude recalls the sight of Diana offering him tea just like this, but this is short-lived when a headache strikes him again. As his irritation rises, he glares at Athanasia, who he catches munching the cake happily. It's a baffling contrast to her earlier glow. She then impulsively shoves the cake into his mouth. Seems like her old habit dies hard. Claude then wastes no time in kicking both Felix and Athanasia out. Meanwhile, at the Alpheus estate, Anastasius, Roger, and Janette discuss her palace visits. She recounts Athanasia's lethargy and Lucas, the magician's return. This piques Anastasius' interest. Janette adds that Lucas improved the Emperor's condition. As she leaves, the mood turns grim. Anastasius was disappointed over missing his chance to act while Athanasia stayed at the estate, a fact that stuns Roger, who was clueless. Even if Anastasius warned him, Roger couldn't act, because Athanasia possesses magic. Roger frets that Janette might lose Claude's favor. Meanwhile, Anastasius grows more alarmed. Lucas is back from the Sacred World Tree venture, and worse, he might cure the memory loss. Though the memory loss wasn't part of his original scheme. Elsewhere, Lucas returns to his tower and finds it ransacked. A young Claude searches for his brother but sees him nowhere, growing anxious since they still have class. As he sulks, he spots a young Anastasius, staring eerily upward. Claude then grabs his hand to snap him out of it. Anastasius finally refocuses and states that he feels like he's being called, as if their mother is unleashing her anger on him. These memories flood back to the present-day Claude, stressing him amid questions from others about whether he and Athanasia have reconciled. Elsewhere, Lucas scours the tower, realizing nothing is here that he doesn't already know about. He then considers chasing the rat who trespassed the tower, but remembers Athanasia, causing him to leave it for now and dig deeper into the palace instead. Meanwhile, Athanasia toys with the idea of bringing her father's memory via a solid whack from an object. She quickly dismisses it, remembering his protective magic. Janette arrives soon after, sparking another awkward trio dynamic, though only Athanasia senses the tension. After they settle down, Janette presents homemade sweets. To Athanasia's shock, Claude eyes them steadily, unlike his cake aversion when they were together. Janette offers some to Claude, heightening Athanasia's unease. Claude samples it without flinching or reacting to the sweetness, irking Athanasia. He's playing favorites! Though Felix suspects she's misreading the situation. Athanasia mulls over Claude's blatant favoritism. She states that he should just summon Janette exclusively. Why call her if he can't even recall her? Felix steps in to clarify that Claude rarely shows emotion, and Athanasia should know this best. With Janette, a guest from House Alpheus, politeness comes naturally. Around Athanasia, though, he's comfortable expressing more. He reassures her further, saying even without memories restored, Felix believes things will be better. Athanasia flushes with embarrassment, apologizes for whining, and thanks him warmly. A couple of days later, Ezekiel requests an audience with Athanasia. She then realizes she never contacted him after leaving, so she tells the maid she'll be right out, igniting their worry since she skips dressing up entirely. They chat soon after, then Athanasia thanks him for all his support, and Ezekiel replies he's simply relieved to see her safe. Only now does Athanasia notice how much Ezekiel has matured, more handsome than ever. He presses on, voicing concern for her and offering help amid the Emperor's ongoing memory loss, which must weigh on her. Athanasia then ponders on top of his looks. He's so kind and considerate. She mentions his thoughtfulness and explains Janette's fondness for him. Ezekiel agrees wholeheartedly, adding he sees Janette as a sister. Athanasia steers back to Ezekiel, as she feels uneasy about the topic. She then praises his kindness to everyone, but he bluntly corrects her that he's not really kind to everyone. His raw honesty leaves Athanasia wondering if he still harbors feelings for her. She knew before, but now she's quite unsure. Just as she opens her mouth, Lucas swoops in, rescuing her from the moment. Ezekiel then offers to escort her, but Lucas dismisses it sharply, as if he's marking his territory. To amp up Ezekiel's jealousy, Lucas leans swooningly close to Athanasia's face right in front of him. Though she's becoming uncomfortable, Lucas and Ezekiel lock into their own showdown. Refusing to lose, Ezekiel seizes Athanasia's hand and kisses it gracefully, thanking her for the audience. The two exchange glares before Ezekiel departs. Later, Athanasia braids Lucas's hair as it soothes her nerves. As she works, she ponders how Ezekiel could still carry feelings for her, since she thought it was just fleeting emotions. She ponders because in the novel, Janette and Ezekiel end up together. She goes deeper in thought, wondering if her presence really altered the plot significantly. She now doubts if she even read the original novel properly. Her recollection breaks when Lucas suddenly grips her arm, alarmed, and then asks what she was just thinking about. Unbeknownst to Athanasia, Lucas witnessed something stunning. Her mana surged intensely. He urges her never to give up, especially with her father, promising they'll find answers. Meanwhile, Athanasia puzzles over his sudden words. She brushes it off, admitting she was thinking about Ezekiel. This irks Lucas, who probes if the pretentious and calm type is her preference. Athanasia denies it, but defends Ezekiel as well-mannered and gentle. Unlike Lucas. Stung, Lucas snatches her hand and smirkingly kisses it, asking if this is what she calls gentlemanly. Athanasia blushes intensely, then kicks him out in flustered fashion. Janette cherishes the moment she had with Athanasia and Claude, dreaming that if this continues smoothly, they could be a happy family one day. Still, she wonders when Roger will finally disclose her identity to the Emperor. At the palace, Athanasia ponders her romantic conundrum. She asks Lily and Felix if they've ever had someone confess feelings for them. Lily startles, and Felix answers first. From his response, Athanasia gathers he's quite the heartthrob, though constant time with Claude leaves little room for romance. She turns to Lily, who admits receiving party invitations, but avoids them most of the time because that's not her thing. Felix, listening closely, perks up. People often ask if Lily is interested in him, but their bond feels more protective. Though he's glad he never asked her to dance, because apparently, she's not the type. Can't blame Athanasia for being in trouble. She focused solely on survival initially, so when faced with love, it overwhelms her. Still, restoring her father's memory is a priority. Later, she invites Claude to go boating on the lake, an activity they frequented. To her surprise, he accepts instead of staying silent and being grumpy. She then probes if he wants Janette along. He shrugs, telling her it's up to her. Once she leaves, Claude directs Felix to clear all sea plant monsters from the area. Felix notes they've already done so per prior orders, then frets if the lake's depth poses risks, prompting Felix to ask Claude about Athanasia might fall in. Irritated, Claude dismisses him. When finally alone, Claude can't shake thoughts of Athanasia. The following day, Athanasia and Janette are greeted by a grand boat, making Athanasia question if Claude forgot his old preference for simplicity before losing his memories. Noticing her surprise, Claude wonders if it's not to her taste. As they start boating, Claude gazes contentedly at the two girls, then closes his eyes. Suddenly, Janette tumbles into the water, sending Athanasia into a panic. She yells for Claude, but he moves sluggishly and tells her to sit instead, as she's getting wet. Furious, Athanasia berates him to rescue Janette immediately. Fortunately, he pulls Janette out in time. Luckily, she seems fine, thanking him profusely after composing herself, only to receive silence, which earns Claude another scolding from Athanasia. Later, Lucas notes Athanasia's braver attitude toward her father. She replies, saying that Claude's improvement, but Lucas warns against complacency, because it's temporary and his illness is not gone. She counters that Claude's recent behavior proves he's healing, especially toward her. Lucas remains uneasy, but concedes because at least she stopped crying. This leads him to ask if she cherishes her family, and before delving deeper, Athanasia cuts in, begging him to teach her magic. She hates feeling helpless in crisis, like Janette's near drowning. Though he doesn't like teaching, Lucas agrees to make an exception and shelves his World Tree question for now. Adult Lucas meets young Athanasia, whom his father asks him to train, but Lucas scoffs rudely, saying the boy seems too feeble for someone of royal descent. He then declares he'll never teach the likes of him, ordering them out and to never return. The memory fades, leaving present-day Lucas puzzled as to why it resurfaced now. He tells Athanasia to feel honored. He doesn't teach just anyone. Not even history's greatest emperor, Athanasia, got lessons from him. Frankly, Lucas questions the hype. The man struck him as pathetically weak. Athanasia marvels at Lucas's storied past, wondering how old he really is. Soon, Lucas starts her training by telling her to control her mana flow to prevent leaks. Baffled at how, she follows his vague instructions. Mere sounds, really, but they work. Eager, Athanasia asks to learn levitation next, but Lucas warns it's too advanced and complex. But she doubts it, citing that her father finds it easy. Lucas counters, saying that they're both relentless strivers. Claude surely struggled too. He demonstrates effortlessly, levitating everything around, including a startled Athanasia with zero warning before guiding her through it. Meanwhile, at the Alpheus estate, Janette longs for Athanasia's visit and asks Ezekiel if he feels the same. He confirms, but his emotions run deeper. He cherishes Athanasia more than anyone in this world, and then recalling his history with Janette. He then apologizes to Janette and exits abruptly. Anastasius witnesses this exchange from afar. Athanasia ponders Lucas's words about Claude's struggles, but all she's witnessed is her father excelling effortlessly, nailing tasks on time with hours left for events. Though the novel gave her an idea of what Claude is like before, now she knows him only as her dad. Currently, she stares at him working, which he notices and asks what's wrong, but she brushes it off. He wonders if she needs study help and dives right in without her saying anything. This delights Athanasia, sparking wonder if he's guilty for being so cruel before. He questions why she's tackling advanced material for her age, to which she confesses she loves compliments, especially on her smarts. The moment evokes young Claude with Anastasius. She then asks if he enjoyed studying back then, to which he shrugs because he never dwelled on it. She then expresses that he thinks that he's naturally gifted at everything, but Lucas claims otherwise. Eager to impress, Athanasia demonstrates her progress, attempting to levitate a book, when suddenly, pages smack Claude's face instead. Rather than being angry, he teaches her how to control it instead. She succeeds, and Athanasia beams as Claude smiles and praises her. A shock to both. Even he himself is confused about his behavior without recovered memories. He abruptly lashes out in frustration, startling Athanasia. He then orders her to leave. That night, Claude reflects that he still doesn't remember her. She feels like a stranger, yet she lingers in his thoughts. He once resolved to never acknowledge her. He's done everything to push her away, but why does she persist at his side? Claude thinks that she's just like her mother, Diana.
We'll stop here for today, guys. Yes, I know you want more. Don't forget to ask for the next part in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching and for your support. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Till the next one.